De-dollarization, why is such a big deal?
De-dollarization signifies the rise of alternative currencies in the global economy. Many experts view this as disruption of the world order, but many supporters terms it as a global empowerment. The US dollar has been the dominant currency in the world for decades, serving as the main medium of exchange, unit of account and store of value for international trade and finance. However, in recent years, there has been a growing trend of de-dollarization, which refers to the reduction of reliance on the US dollar by other countries and regions. This trend has been driven by various factors, such as geopolitical tensions, economic imbalances, financial instability, digital innovation and environmental concerns. So, what does de-dollarization mean? De-dollarization can be defined as the process of substituting the US dollar with other currencies or assets for different purposes, such as trading oil and other commodities, petrodollar, holding foreign exchange reserves, conducting bilateral or multilateral trade agreements, investing in dollar-denominated assets. De-dollarization countries. The trend of de-dollarization has been observed in various countries and regions around the world, especially among those that have been affected by US policies or actions. Some notable examples are: China is the largest holder of US debt and the second largest economy in the world. It has been actively pursuing de-dollarization as a way to challenge US hegemony and promote its own currency, the renminbi, RMB, as a global reserve and payment currency. The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, which is a massive infrastructure and investment project that connects China with more than 70 countries across Asia, Africa and Europe. The Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, CIPS, which is a payment network that enables cross-border RMB transactions among banks and financial institutions. The Digital Currency Electronic Payment, DCEP, which is a central bank digital currency, CBDC, that China is developing and testing. Russia is another major player in the de-dollarization movement, as it has faced several rounds of US sanctions since 2014 due to its annexation of Crimea and involvement in Ukraine and Syria. Europe is another region that has shown signs of de-dollarization, mainly due to its dissatisfaction with US unilateralism and protectionism under the Trump administration. The European Commission has proposed a plan to strengthen the euro's international role by promoting its use in strategic sectors such as energy, commodities and aircraft manufacturing. The European Central Bank, ECB, has launched a project to study the feasibility of issuing a digital euro, which would be a CBDC that could complement cash and offer a secure, efficient and inclusive means of payment for citizens and businesses. The European Union, EU, has established a special purpose vehicle called INSTEX, Instrument in Support of Trade Exchanges, which is a mechanism that facilitates trade between EU companies and Iran without using dollars or US banks. So, what is the current state of de-dollarization? The trend of de-dollarization has been making headlines in various news outlets and media platforms, reflecting its growing importance and impact on the global economy and geopolitics. Iran pushes for de-dollarization in meeting with 11 other countries as officials say the move away from the greenback is not a voluntary choice. 1. Iran hosted a meeting with representatives from 11 other countries, including China, Russia, Turkey and India, to discuss ways to reduce their dependence on the dollar and enhance their economic cooperation. What happens if the dollar loses reserve status? Higher borrowing costs. As the demand for U.S. Treasury bonds declined, the U.S. government would have to pay higher interest rates to borrow money. Less stable exchange rates. The value of the dollar would likely become more volatile, making it more difficult for U.S. businesses to export goods and services and for U.S. investors to invest overseas. Reduced influence in global affairs. The U.S. dollar's reserve status gives the U.S. a great deal of influence in global affairs. Jim Rogers is bracing for the worst bear market of his life, de-dollarization, and higher interest rates. Economic and political factors behind acceleration of de-dollarization. 4. This article analyzes the economic and political factors that have driven the trend of de-dollarization around the world. De-dollarization fears are nonsense, and doomsayers are hawking gold. 5. This article argues that de-dollarization fears are overblown and based on faulty assumptions. Effects of de-dollarization. De-dollarization can have significant effects on various aspects of the global economy and geopolitics, such as exchange rates. De-dollarization can affect the supply and demand of different currencies in the foreign exchange market, leading to changes in their relative values. Trade flows. De-dollarization can affect the volume and direction of trade flows among countries and regions, depending on their currency preferences and arrangements. Financial stability. De-dollarization can affect the stability and resilience of the global financial system, depending on its causes and consequences. Geopolitics. De-dollarization can affect the balance of power and influence among countries and regions, depending on their strategic interests and alliances. China de-dollarization. China is one of the most active and influential players in the de-dollarization movement, as it has been pursuing various initiatives and strategies to reduce its reliance on the dollar and promote its own currency, the renminbi, RMB, as a global reserve and payment currency. Economic power. China is the world's second largest economy and the largest trading nation. Geopolitical rivalry. China is engaged in a strategic competition with the US over trade, technology, security, and ideology. Global leadership. China is aspiring to play a bigger role in global governance and cooperation on issues such as climate change, pandemic response, poverty reduction, and infrastructure development. BRICS de-dollarization. BRICS is an alliance of 5 emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS represents about 42% of the world's population, 23% of the world's GDP, and 17% of the world's trade. Some of the main initiatives that BRICS has launched or participated in to advance its de-dollarization agenda are: the New Development Bank, NDB. This is a multilateral development bank that was established by BRICS in 2014 to finance infrastructure and sustainable development projects in BRICS and other developing countries. The Contingent Reserve Arrangement, CRA. This is a currency swap agreement that was signed by BRICS in 2014 to provide mutual support and liquidity in times of financial crisis. The BRICS payment system. This is a project that was proposed by Russia in 2019 to create a common payment system for BRICS countries that would facilitate trade and investment among them. The BRICS Local Currency Bond Fund. This is a project that was proposed by China in 2019 to create a fund that would invest in local currency bonds issued by BRICS countries. How does de-dollarization affect the U.S.? Reducing the U.S.'s seigniorage revenue, which is the profit that the U.S. government earns from issuing dollars that are used by other countries and entities. Reducing the U.S.'s exorbitant privilege, which is the ability of the U.S. to borrow cheaply and run large deficits and debts without facing significant constraints or costs. De-dollarization can have significant implications for the U.S. and the world economy, depending on its pace, scope, and outcome. You like this informative video? Subscribe to support me to share more of such content.